Getting stuck in an elevator is typically not a death sentence. You hit the emergency button, communicate with whoever is behind the surveillance system, and wait until they fix whatever's broken. It's simple. Not in this film though, no. Add a bunch of weirdos and people will find ways to lose limbs. That's right. Don't believe me? Well, watch and learn how to do that. The film opens in downtown New York. A party for selected guests is held on the top floor of the Barton building. As the invited guests arrive, they are checked by the security guy, who apparently loves his name list but doesn't seem to care much if any of the attendees carry deadly weapons on them. Who needs certainty when optimism is a choice? The first to arrive is an engaged couple. This is Dawn, and this is Maureen. He works in this building while she is a local news anchor. The next to arrive is Kevin's older brother, who still likes cheese pizza, as we can see. The fourth to arrive is George, the booked comedian and the most obnoxious character this film has to offer. Not that there is much more. Anyway, he immediately starts to complain about his claustrophobia and that they shouldn't stuff the elevator too full. The security guard has no time for that silly phobia though, and continues checking the name of Jane, a lovely small woman who is heavily into co-ingestion of various pharmaceuticals and Irish whiskey. The last to arrive is Mr. Barton, together with his granddaughter Madeline. He is the owner of the building, with his name literally sitting on the skyscraper itself. But that isn't enough for the security guy, who makes sure that each is treated with equal suspicion. Now, just when the doors are about to shut and the story finally begins, we are introduced to the last character, Celine, another employee working for Mr. Barton who happens to be pregnant. Now, as they ride to the top, the little girl decides to annoy the comedian and pushes the emergency button to stop the elevator. She overheard his fears of enclosed spaces and thought, hey, why not help this man confront his fears? Very thoughtful of you, thank you very much. The elevator stops, but then gets stuck around the 40th floor. Now, there is hardly a person who hasn't been stuck in an elevator throughout their lives. I have, multiple times, but I always got out again, because there is hardly anything that could go wrong. Okay, well, clearly being stuck in elevators can be deadly. However, Mr. Barton here owns the building, and as we will soon see, literally all of them have working mobile phones in here. So what could go wrong? Well, it turns out everything. After cussing out the 10-year-old girl, calling her a little George is shut down by Mr. Barton, who claims that it was only an accident. Sure it was. Now, what do you do when you're stuck in an elevator? Well, you press the communication button and pray that whoever sits in that surveillance room is actually working, which is probably a 50-50 chance. In this case, the characters are lucky. He answers, tells them that he notified the technical department and that they are on it. Problem solved. Except, not quite. You see, Jane passes her whiskey flask to the comedian to calm his nerves, because he isn't doing so well, and then starts oversharing how her husband died a few months ago and that he was an investor in Mr. Barton's company. We also get to know that Celine used to work with Dawn, and that he seems to be uncomfortable talking about it. We all know what that means. Before this small subplot can be revealed though, Jane collapses, prompting Mr. Barton to notify the technicians yet again. They claim that specialists are on their way, but are currently stuck in traffic. He also at the same time answers a call from his wife, who seems to be upstairs already, telling him that everyone's waiting. This scene shows how their phones are still completely functional. Now, I don't know about y'all, but this guy here owns the building, right? With a functional phone, nothing stops this guy from getting the right people on this elevator issue and giving him updates every 5 minutes. Now, Mr. Barton ends up annoying the guy behind the elevator communication button so much that this guy stops answering. Another reason to use the phones in your goddamn pockets. But it gets even worse. Jane, after having overshared about her husband's passing, now starts oversharing about her son's passing to further lighten the mood. She doubles down twice, by first accusing Mr. Barton being responsible for her husband's death because his company was the one he invested in and then went bankrupt, leading to his self-induced wipeout, and secondly by having a heart attack. Yeah, she literally dies on the spot, which is heartbreaking but also weirdly hilarious because what the hell is going on here, right? It's an elevator. But the joke doesn't stop here though, my friends. You see, Mohammed, the security guy stationed in this elevator, and by far the most useless character this whole film has to offer, has his shining scene. He, an ex-medic trained by the US Army, holds her in her hands, announces her death seconds after she passed, and then melodramatically closes her eyes. Clearly, CPR was not a thing yet in 2011. Additionally, Jane, just before she passed, mentioned how she is carrying a bomb on herself. That's a pretty sick joke to make as your final words, especially in New York, especially in a skyscraper, and especially with 8 other people nearby, including a child. What is the logical progression from here? That's right, denying that she has a bomb on herself and continue waiting for others to free you from this elevator. The characters shocked by her death are also not too shaken by her statement of carrying a bomb. They think she was just mad and probably just made it up. Okay, how about, check the body first? I mean, Mohammed here is a security guard. That means he is responsible for the guest's security. That's his job, as far as I'm concerned. It takes minutes until Celine, the pregnant chick of all people here, comes up with the brilliance to check Jane's body just to be sure. Now let's break this down for a second, shall we? In contrast to what those characters think, Jane has actually a very good reason to carry a bomb on herself. She was clearly resentful towards Mr. Barton. She was also clearly nervous, as her whiskey flask would have indicated. Therefore, checking her body for any device is a logical progression from here, even if you don't believe it, making sure it's the only right move right now. Then, calling the police at this stage would be another logical decision that every 10-year-old could have come up with. With a dead body in the elevator, you will be prioritized right away, meaning more people trying to get you out. That's not bad. Also, telling them that she mentioned she carries a bomb would be pretty important. Now, the characters do some of that, to be fair, but kind of half-ass it. While Kevin's brother calls 911, he fails to communicate pretty much anything important, which is really impossible given the circumstances. In fact, conveniently, while he is on the phone with 911, the film focuses on Maureen instead, who is on the phone with her colleague. Her colleague convinces her to livestream the events to make news. At the same time, like mentioned before, Celine, the pregnant woman out of all other people here, decides to check on Jane's body and indeed finds a metal box strapped to her body. Now, I would prefer to do this while on call with the bomb squad, to be honest, because whether you find a bomb or not, there is literally nothing you can do without expert help. If there is no bomb, there is nothing to worry about, and if there is, well, now you need a bomb squad. I also want to mention here that this scene, Celine checking on Jane's body, goes for 7 minutes, my friends. That's 7 minutes of someone scavenging the body of someone else. That is 10% of this whole film, okay? Just to let you know. Now, Maureen films the device while being on a video call with a colleague of hers, and after showing her the bomb, she hangs up to save battery. Now, Don, clearly having watched a bunch of movies centering around characters stuck in elevators, I can relate, comes up with the idea to escape through the ceiling. He opens up the elevator ceiling and tries to climb through. Apparently, though, there is nothing but lights up there. At least that is what he says, before closing the ceiling again and opting for another solution. I suppose once the light bulbs burn through, the elevator will be cast in eternal darkness then. Now, interestingly enough though, for all you elevator nerds out there, the USA doesn't have a universal elevator emergency law in place, meaning, while some buildings have emergency exits built into their elevator systems, others may not. So this one might just be one of those, if we believe this cheating male character, of course. Now, Celine, clearly having a great team spirit now of all times, starts sharing about her past relationship with Don a few months ago, and that the child she's carrying might be his. And for everyone that can't connect the dots here, that means he cheated on, well, his ex-fiancée, I guess. But because affairs and undesired unborn babies are not the priority right now, these characters come up with their next escape idea. They open the elevator door and see if they're close enough to the next floor. And they are. That's actually not too bad of an idea. As long as you don't attempt to jump down the shaft, or God forbid, get caught in between, this should be fairly secure. Don, for some weird reason, starts hitting at the elevator buttons on the outside with Jane's walking stick. What logic that follows, we don't know, we'll never find out. And instead, sending the child through this opening and have her come back with help and free all of them from their impending death, why not push a bunch of buttons that have virtually the same function as those on the inside, right? Makes total sense. And don't get me started on the risks of trying to make this elevator move while literally having your torso in between. Now, just to be absolutely sure that this will work, the demon-possessed girl starts ferociously hitting the elevator buttons on the inside, clearly trying to help this guy lose a limb or two. See, that is why someone invented children leashes. But hey, we all love some good mutilation, don't we? I suppose the best follow-up to this is to see that little Brett completely traumatized. With the remaining 9 characters now stuck in the elevator a few floors further down the shaft, minus one arm and still an active bomb inside, time is about to run out. Here's what happens next. Mohammed, the security guy and ex-medic, that probably has only ever watched Saving Private Ryan a bunch of times, graciously helps Mr. Barton with his concussion while we see Don missing his arm lying next by. Priorities. At the same time, Kevin's older brother comes across a live stream showing the bomb maker given an interview, admitting that he built it for Jane. He was a friend of her son, and to that extent, a friend of the family. She asked him to help her, and so he decided to build a makeshift bomb to kill someone he didn't even know. That's the friend we all need. Also, how did this guy even know how to build a bomb? I guess according to this film, a Middle Eastern look is enough to establish authority on this front. Anyway, more importantly, he mentions how the bomb will go off in approximately 10 minutes. That is great to know, but it would be better to know when exactly the bomb goes off, right? There's a pretty big difference between dying in 8 minutes or 12 minutes. But he just says the bomb is timed for 2 hours. But that implies that there must have been a starting time, which would be really good to know right now. He also shares how there isn't much explosives in the bomb, but inside an enclosed elevator, it's certainly deadly. Thanks for letting us know, man. Now, here's my question to you. If you were in those people's shoes right now, stuck with a bunch of morons, a bomb, and the little brats that you really want to slap before going into the afterlife, which sequence of actions would you opt for? Well, you see, the only logical conclusion since the bomb discovery is to get a bomb squad on the phone, show them the device, and either A, try to defuse it, or B, if that isn't possible, get it off of her body and drop it down the shaft. It's pretty simple arithmetics, isn't it? This will 100% save us from dying from the explosion, but it could technically lead to the elevator system being damaged and cause us to fall into our death. But is this really a fair assessment? Would an explosive going off at the very bottom of this elevator shaft cause our elevator to free fall? Maybe. It is impossible to say without having information on the security systems in place, but usually elevators use multiple safety mechanisms to prevent elevators from falling freely. Some of those are emergency brakes, counterweights, overspeed governors, safety gears, and sometimes even electromagnetic brake systems. I'm an expert, and so are you now. All of those systems are either placed at the bottom of a given shaft or the top, sometimes inside the machine room for manual activation, meaning there is a pretty good chance we would survive if the bomb exploded at the very bottom. Certainly a higher chance of survival compared to the bomb blowing up right in our faces. After answering a few new phone calls, all stressing that everybody is doing as much as they can to get them out, the characters in this film for once actually do something other than standing around and rubbing each other off. They want to remove the explosive off the torso of Jane. In order to do that, they use the security guy's microblades to cut through it. Except they can't, because duh, it's a bicycle lock. Instead, they opt for slicing around the torso in order to make space to strip the bomb off. Now I know what you guys think. That's what I just said. Or are you just taking ideas from this film and repackage it? Yeah, kind of. But that's not the point. You see, the point is that this is all they could have done since minute 1 after discovering the bomb, right? It's pure logic. However, instead, they somehow managed to first get stuck in a worse place, a guy loses limbs, and the kid is still unleashed. It's crazy how whoever wrote this film came up with such an elaborate narrative for a bunch of characters stuck inside an elevator before progressing with the one thing every other person in this world, hopefully, would have done after discovering the bomb. That's the point. Now, while they ponder about who is best suited to slice up Jane's body, instead of picking the right person here, the ex-medic, the billionaire does the deed. I guess that is to show that he is that evil psychopathic capitalist. It's pretty subtle, loved it. While they're going after this makeshift surgery for another eternity, the camera for the third time pans over to the heavily disturbed child, attempting to evoke empathy from the viewers, I think. Instead, it accomplishes nothing more than an odd satisfaction that makes myself question my moral capabilities. But before I could arrive at a meaningful conclusion what this means and whether a 3-month silent retreat would be beneficial for my future life, the movie, for the love of God, finally approached the climax. That's right, the bomb squad is in the building, friends. They attempt to lower the elevator to the next floor, open the gates, and help all of those poor fellas out, unfortunately including the kid. The only one who is left behind, in case you ask, due to clearly fat-phobic elevator doors, is Kevin's older brother. Should have stayed away from cheese pizza. He is simply too fat to make it out, which is neither satisfying to watch nor really emotional. It just is whatever it is. You know, instead of the bomb squad trying to help with the active bomb, they just leave this dude behind. It's kind of hilarious if you think about it. They could have easily at least dropped in a tactical knife so that he could have attempted to proceed with making some bacon while trying to isolate that explosive in order to drop it down the shaft. Oh my god. In fact, since 1 + 1 = 2, it was pretty clear that he won't make it through since the bomb squad opened the doors in the first place. If they had given him the tools before they helped the others out, he would have likely had enough time to proceed with whatever makeshift surgery was necessary in order to finally get rid of this bomb and save himself. Also, I would bet $100 that either of those girls has a moisturizer in their handbags. Boom, lubricate Jane's soft tissue, strip off the bomb, problem solved. But instead, with the others saved, it's time for the grande finale. Now, if you have enjoyed this sarcastic movie review, let me know. If this video does well, this might become a series. Thanks for watching and binge another one. See you again next week. Peace out.